doctors and suicide. Recently I read about a young doctor committed suicide. You know, there's an absolute tragedy, and I believe eminently preventable. I suppose suicide at any age is just terrible. Old farts like me sometimes commit suicide, although it's rather rare among surgeons. You sometimes hear of the odd surgeon plans it all very well, winds up all the affairs and jumps off a building, but it's rare. But amongst young doctors, unfortunately, it's quite common. I hear 1 to 2 cases a year. There's some things published on it, but I'd like to share some of my personal experiences. It seems to me it's quite common amongst young doctors. I mean, from the time of graduation with their medical degree to the very early days of their specialty work. It seems to be also common amongst female doctors and anaesthetists. In fact, it's so common amongst anaesthetists or anesthesiologists that they have sessions on this at their formal annual meetings. That's how seriously they take it. Now, amongst young doctors, I believe some of the factors involved are the extraordinary stresses amongst young doctors are much more prone to stress, professional stress, than old farts like me. The reason for it is this: you know, there's a lot of pressures being put on them from their spouse, their young family, from the hospital. Now, these hospitals, the bureaucracies in them, they have also been recently outlined, found to be just huge, vindictive, nasty, very happy to run personal vendettas against people who upset them, answer back, rude to them. So these hospital administrations, you know, they got to answer for a lot. I don't hide my feelings about them. They've got to answer for a lot. There's been a lot in the newspapers recently in Australia about how nasty, overpriced, and how they pretty much the root cause of the failure of the public hospital system. And they can make young doctors' lives nasty. How do I know? Yeah, I experienced some of it myself when I was a young doctor training, feeling quite desperate at times. You know, someone gets it in for you, boy, do they never stop. They never let up on you, hauling you into meetings, or you said this to someone, you said that to someone, making big issues out of every little event. You're totally exhausted from your work. Yeah, you're on call one night, have the next night off. Yeah, sure, it's off, all right. And you'd be a little bit rude to the patient, yeah, because all your goodwill's been exhausted. You're just desperate to get home, see your family, have a little bit of a sleep. Be rude to a patient, and instead of trying to calm it all down for the administrators for the patient, they just keep it going. Putting the oil on the water, fanning the fires. They just keep it going for their own. Oh, I don't know, who knows? Make it a big issue, give them something to do, writing all their stupid letters. So these poor young doctors get caught with this. They can really rule their lives. The next thing is the professional bodies. Yeah, you heard me. The specialty bodies that are training these young doctors. Can you believe it? That they actually listen to the administrators when they're assessing your performance, and to the nurses, administration of the hospital when assessing your performance. Really? Should they? No, of course they shouldn't. Do we assess their performance, the young doctors? No. Do we assess the performance of the nursing staff, determine their career structure or its advancement? No. Some of our own professional bodies are really gone weak at the knees on this. You know, asking the nursing groups in the hospital, oh, was he a good boy? Was he very cooperative? Could he work in the team? Oh, ridiculous. They've really gone soft in the knees and in the brain on these issues. So there are some of the concerns there. You know, I've heard some terrible stories. A young doctor training in my own particular specialty gets so desperate with the work and run down, feeling absolutely desperate. You know, his parents had to intervene. They'd go and stay with them, whereas working in this isolated hospital in a rural area, to stop him from doing something desperate. I've also heard of young doctors training who they've been bullied by a senior doctor like me. You know, life's been made a misery, and they've actually just decomposed, just completely flipped out. You know, they've changed their gender, they've dropped out of all their surgical training. Now, I know this one particular case, he was a very good candidate, very well, very nice fellow, would have done well, but someone really bullied him so much, drove him to the nth degree, can't take it any longer. I think lady doctors sometimes are very sensitive to the pressures because they're very diligent, hard-working, and involved in areas like pediatrics with just terrible cases of children with tumours and everything. They may take it a little bit too personally. It starts to really get them. So I've seen that with lady doctors. Now, another story is I've heard young anaesthetists, lady doctors, sitting around in the early 30s, finish their career, you know, should be doing pretty well. feeling pretty unhappy about their career. You know, they felt, oh yeah, I wish I put more emphasis into my appearance and all this presentation rather than into my career. Really? Did I hear you right saying that? Yes, a lot of regrets. And then you hear a young lady anaesthetists have committed suicide when they seem to have everything going for them in the world. So, what can be done about all this? Well, first of all, remove the power of these bloody hospital administrators, these bureaucrats. And also, let's get closer to our younger colleagues, certainly in a mentoring role. And also, let's do another thing. Let's back them up a little bit more. You know, before I was a medical student, there used to be an era where if a young doctor made a mistake in the hospital, the senior doctor dropped in and say, hey, wait a minute, look, this is inexperience, you know, I take responsibility for this. Or the administrators used to calm everything down and say, oh no, come on, the young doctor's tired, exhausted. I'm sure they didn't really mean to say that to you when you called them up at 2 in the morning, wanting to have a long discussion about your elderly parents' progress. They used to calm everything down. So, we need to be a little bit more professional, kind, and mentoring towards our younger colleagues, a bit more supportive. Also, we need to cut the power of these other people who've got no business in determining their career, their progress. So I hope this problem, we can do something to solve it, because I think it's an absolute tragedy when young doctors commit suicide.